No matter if you're planning to start a career in technology or you already work in technology, you need to understand how to troubleshoot. We're going to encounter problems in our technology career, from computers breaking to monitors not working to us not being able to connect to the network or to a printer not working. Throughout our career, we're going to encounter problems working with technology. That's not just limited to monitors not working or printers not printing or computers not turning on. In fact, you're going to use troubleshooting all throughout your entire career. Even if you move up to an extremely high role in an organization, you need to understand where things go wrong, identify the issues that are causing those problems, and how you can actually resolve those issues. Let's talk about troubleshooting. Troubleshooting is essentially the steps of doing exactly that. It's identifying a problem, researching an issue, forming a theory, testing that theory, implementing a fix for that problem, and verifying that that fix works or verifying functionality, and then documenting the results. Proper troubleshooting is going to save you a lot of time, a lot of stress, and it's going to help you resolve issues of all sizes and of all kinds. Let's get into troubleshooting now. The first step in troubleshooting is to identify the problem. This step involves clearly defining the issue. So, for example, if someone put in a help desk ticket about a monitor, that means getting the information from them, seeing how they're actually trying to use that monitor, observing how they're using it or the symptoms of the problem, and determining what is working and what's not working. You can ask the user or the employee who is having the problem about what's happening, when it started, any recent changes. You can check for error messages, warning lights, or any unusual system or device behavior. You can also identify the scope of the problem. So you can see, okay, are multiple people having issues with their monitor, or is it just this one person? And you can also confirm the problem by reproducing it if it's possible. So for example, if everyone on an office floor is not able to start their computer or use their monitors, might be an issue with the power going to that floor. You could test this by plugging in a monitor and a computer in a spare outlet and seeing if that turns on. So there's a lot of different things, but the first step with troubleshooting is to actually identify the problem and what's going on with it. The second step is to research the issue. So after we've checked out the problem and we have a good understanding of what's going on, now it's time to actually research that problem or to research the issue. This step involves us going out there and learning more about the problem and then identifying possible causes and solutions. Here we might review documentation, manuals, vendor support resources, online forums, and we might look at different types of knowledge bases and technical websites. If it's something to do with a physical computer, we might also check different types of logs and error codes, and if it's something on a software, we might check different types of logs as well. From there, we might use past documentation within our company if we have it, or we might look at previous help desk tickets or troubleshooting records in order to help guide the investigation. Additionally, we could also reach out to someone who might have dealt with this problem before and ask what the problem actually was and maybe how they resolved it. From here, we're going to form a theory. So we're going to understand what we think is the likely cause of the problem, and then from there, we can move forward. So here we're going to start with the most obvious and common causes first. This is by far one of the most important points. Don't always jump to the most advanced thing first. Try things out. See the most simple solution to a problem. For example, if a monitor won't work, maybe try replacing the power cable. Maybe try and replace the actual video cable if it's using HDMI. Maybe try using another video connection, for example, using something like DisplayPort. There's a lot of different things we can do before we jump to, okay, the monitor's dead, time to throw it away and replace it with a new monitor. This is also going to help with saving money because over time, if all you're doing is jumping to the most nuclear fix, which is the monitor's dead, we have to replace it, it's going to cost you a lot of not only money, but also time for your organization. Additionally, here we want to eliminate anything unlikely through using logic and evidence, and we want to prioritize our theories from the most simple all the way to the most complex. So again, let's start with our most obvious and least complex and most common causes first, and then we'll start to go from there if that's not the actual issue and if our fixes aren't working. Step 4 is to test our theory. This involves us actually going out and testing what our theory was and see if we have the solution. So for example, we could apply a change, we could test something. In the case of a monitor, maybe we replace the power cable, maybe we replace one of the actual monitor connection cables. Maybe we test the monitor with another device. There's a bunch of different things that we can do, but here we're testing the theory. If our test fails, for example, if we try and replace the monitor cable or we try and replace the power cable to the monitor, if it doesn't work, we've got to go back to step 3 and form a new theory to see what solution it might be and what the actual cause of the problem or the issue is. So step 4, here we're just testing the theory and seeing if we were right. Step 5 is to implement the actual fix. This is applying the real solution to the problem to resolve that problem. Here, we're applying changes carefully. That way, we're not introducing new problems. We're also making sure that we're using approved procedures as well as tools from our organization, and we're informing the user or the employee of what changes are being made and any expected downtime. One of the main things here, all throughout the process of troubleshooting, is ensuring that we're properly documenting things and as well that we're communicating with our users, with our employees, or with our customers. We want to keep people in the loop as we're going through and testing things and starting to understand what the problem is all the way to the time where we actually fix that problem. That way, they're kept in the loop, their expectations are set, and they're anchored to understanding we're going through and we're actually working on this. Step 6 is to verify functionality. So after we've applied the fix, we want to make sure that the system is working. So for example, if we're going back to that monitor example, we want to make sure that the monitor is actually working. Have the employee test it out. Have whoever's using it test it out for, say, maybe a few hours. If the monitor starts to go out again, well, we know that we need to go back and we need to start working on our solution again and testing our various theories or coming up with a new theory. Additionally, we want to make sure that the employee, the user, or the customer, whoever we're resolving the issue for, is happy with the fix. One thing I wanted to mention here, sometimes there can be multiple fixes to a problem. So for example, for troubleshooting and we find multiple potential fixes and both of the fixes work, try and stick with the fix that is, again, the most likely to resolve the problem, the most simple, and it doesn't interfere with anything else. I can't tell you the amount of times people have fixed physical things or people have fixed things on the software side, or perhaps people have configured a piece of software a certain way. And while they technically fixed an issue, they caused a huge other issue. So make sure that you understand when you're going through and you're troubleshooting, you always want to keep in contact with whoever is having the issue or the group of people having the issue, verify that things are working and that no other problems are actively being caused by that fix that you've implemented and that things work well over the long run. Now, obviously, if it's something simple like a monitor, just tell them, hey, I went ahead, I applied this fix, I replaced the power cable, things look good. Just let me know if everything works out well by the end of the day. If not, I'll be back tomorrow. We can discuss and we'll go from there. You don't need to do anything excessive, but the higher of importance the issue, not only the faster should you respond to things or to resolve the issue, but the more contact you should have with that person after you've actually verified that things have been fixed. For example, if an executive at your company, the CEO's laptop or desktop computer goes out, after you fix it, you might want to stay in contact with them and say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and reach out to your executive assistant. I'll go ahead and stay in contact with him or her, and I'll just make sure that everything's working well for you. But if anything comes up in the meantime, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be there for you. I would love to help. That way, you can just check in every so often with whoever it is just to make sure that that's working. Usually what I'll do is a 3 follow-up system. So for example, if it's an incredibly important issue, I'll get the fix. I'll follow up with them a few hours after. I'll follow up with them the day after. And then sometimes I'll follow up between 2 to 5 days after just to make sure that everything's okay and just make it clear, this is my last follow-up. I just wanted to make sure that everything's going well. So usually for important issues, I'll do 3 follow-ups. For non-critical issues, like something like a monitor, for lower level employee or for your average employee, I'll just do 2 follow-ups. That's normally pretty simple there. But if anything comes up, just make sure that you are available to help with those issues. Step 7 is to document the results. So this is our last step. So once we've actually implemented the fix, everything's working, then we document things. Now in the help desk world or the IT support side of things, this would be documenting things through either a wiki article or some sort of document that your team shares, and as well making sure that you document through a ticket. So for example, going back to that same example with the monitor, if we had a help desk ticket, we would actually document the process that we did. So that we tested the monitor, however we tested it, we verified all the different types of issues that the user said that they had, we put all of our notes in that actual ticket, and we put how we resolved that issue. That way, if in the future anything like that comes up, anyone on our team or anyone in our organization can go through and look at that previous ticket or that wiki article we made or whatever documentation, and then they can resolve the issue themselves with an extremely fast form of understanding of what was actually going on. Another thing that you could do if you're more of a helpful person is if you're having an issue that is, for example, very widespread, or maybe it affects people from multiple different organizations or multiple different people who are using a specific program, you could always post on forums. You can make a YouTube video, you can make a YouTube short, you could post online about the issue and how you actually went through and resolved it. That's very helpful. You don't have to do that, but you never just have to limit it to only inside your organization, and definitely never just limit it to your own notes. Make sure you're documenting it somewhere, and whether it's internally or externally, you're getting that information documented. That way anyone else can go through and hopefully solve the same issue that you did if it comes up. And that's it for this video on troubleshooting. All throughout the Tech Plus exam and all throughout technology and cybersecurity or whatever tech related field you're going into, you're going to encounter issues where you have to troubleshoot. Whether it's something like someone's system crashed, or a software isn't working, or someone's access rights aren't working well, or they don't have access to a certain file, or their permissions have been removed. Whatever it is, troubleshooting is going to help you identify the issue and take it all the way from the beginning part when someone's experiencing an issue all the way to when you actually go through and resolve that issue. For the Tech Plus exam, make sure as we go through each section that you're thinking about specifically for hardware and software, how these different types of situations would apply. So for example, with printers, with routers, with different types of physical equipment, different types of software, how you would actually go through and troubleshoot these things if they did break. You don't have to have an extremely detailed look at how to troubleshoot this or that, but just understand from a high level perspective how you can implement the 7 steps for any situation, whether it's physical hardware, software, access rights, something crashing, anything like that, and you will definitely be ready for your exam.